Welcome back to ESPR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted as always to be joined by Elliot Grigg. This is a video a few hours after the announcement that Anthony Joshua versus Dillian White 2 will not be happening due to a Dillian White drugs test. People who are watching this video probably heard about it already. This was a few hours ago. We've had a few hours to calm down now and take everything into consideration. We're just going to be talking really about what is next for Dillian White, really. This is the third time in his career he's failed a drugs test. And yeah, will we see him box again? What sort of ban's he gonna get? Not a bit of a negative video for a Saturday evening, Elliot, but good to speak to you as always. How are you? What was your reaction when you saw the news today?
First off, thank you very much for having me. My initial reaction was it must be a joke when it started to come through I genuinely thought it was fake news when it started landing in my WhatsApps. To be honest with you, but having dug into a bit more, obviously, I sort of followed the kind of mainstream news on it. Really, to be honest, my reaction is it's not really one of surprise. And to be perfectly honest with you, I think from our content, anyone who's watched our content know that I've been kind of flogging Dillian White since even when it was unpopular to do so. Around the time when the sort of last failed test, the Revis time, Thomas Howes was getting obviously the criticism around that for breaking that news and how fishy that whole thing was. So to me, it's not really a surprise, to be honest with you. I actually think, in some ways, though, without wishing to essentially apportion guilt or not apportion guilt, it actually to me makes sense that Dillian White would come into this fight on some sort of illicit substance, just for the simple fact that I think it's a gross mismatch at this stage of his career anyway. So in order to roll the dice into this fight and then into the possible Wilder fight, I think he actually would need something performance enhancing, frankly, to get through it. So it's actually of no surprise to me, frankly. I'm actually still a bit sad that it's been called off because I think AJ would knock him out anyway.
Yeah, it's just 7 days before the fight. Sold out O2 Arena on the zone pay-per-view, so it was obviously a big money fight for both fighters, and now we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens next on August the 12th if Josh will be facing somebody else. Just gonna breeze through Dillian White's statement, which came out a couple of hours after the news did. I am shocked and devastated to learn of a report by VADA of adverse findings relating to me. I only learned of it this morning and I'm still reacting to it. I've also just seen that the fight is being cancelled without having any chance to demonstrate my innocence before the decision was taken. I can confirm without a shadow of doubt that I've not taken the reported substance in this camp or at any point in my life. I'm completely innocent and asked to be given the time to go through the process of proving this without anybody jumping to conclusions or a trial by media. I insisted on 24/7 VADA testing for this fight, as I have done voluntarily and at my own expense for all of my fights for many, many years. This is not the first time that I've been reported as having an adverse finding for a substance which I have not taken. And as I did the last time, I will again prove that I'm completely innocent. Finally, in the meantime, all I can do is express my extreme disappointment to boxing fans who will miss out on what was sure to be a great event. That came out at 3:29 p.m. this afternoon, which was three and a half hours after the news broke, I believe, Elliot. Your thoughts on Dillian White's statement?
My thoughts on it contains a lot of factual inaccuracies, frankly. I think, for example, let's just pick through it. We can pick through it bit by bit if you want, and I'll respond to some of the bits that actually stood out to me. Although you were obviously reading it out there, and I was raising my eyebrows at certain bits, and I'll go to those bits now. Firstly, I suppose the second bit you were saying about confirming without a shadow of a doubt that I've not taken the reported substance. It's almost like that sort of Trumpian kind of like post-truth like defense here that we're going on. Also, like with the kind of Ben thing to a degree as well. We were sitting there going, like, rather a testing body, like relying on science. You sit there and go like, well, there's some sort of phantom sort of like chemical that's entered your system. There's a difference between going, I didn't know that I took it, but it was there, and I've never taken it. It's like obviously you have. This is a simple fact of the matter. Who, like I said before, like when it comes to boxing as well, who are you going to believe in this instance? Really, a heavyweight boxer in a sport where doping gives you a significant advantage at a stage of his career where he needs it, or a global testing body essentially that are ratified by science. This is simple. The fact of the matter is that to me is frankly laughable as a statement and unbelievable. The second one that I come to here was a bit about obviously insisting on VADA testing, etc., etc. It's like, okay, maybe there's a degree of fact in that, or maybe there's a sense of like, I suppose, compulsory VADA testing for certain fights. having obviously been found guilty previously, it would be surprising if it's the sort of thing you want to enter into. But we'll take that at face value. The last one, another glaring sort of error that I think is one which is this not the first time that I've been reported as having an adverse finding for a substance which I've not taken. Again, you were proven to have taken. The first time we got popped for it was meth or something, whether like dextrose or whatever. He was found to have taken, blamed it on a supplement, and that was kind of upheld, as in, essentially hadn't checked his supplements, which again is a bit bizarre considering you're an athlete, you're a professional athlete at that level. Like it's unforgivable essentially to not essentially know what you're taking or you're ingesting when the stakes are that high. So that's also a lie. You have ingested that. And the second thing with the banned steroid substance around the sort of Rivas fight as well. Again, like people were saying that maybe it wasn't necessarily your fault. It was a low trace amount, but you've still taken something. Like, it still just doesn't just turn up, whether it turns up in, contaminated beef or a pair of ox's bollocks or whatever it is, mate. You've still taken it, frankly. So yeah, I think, to be honest with you, my conclusion on it really is I think Matchroom kind of had to do this, given what happened with Rivas, where they essentially withheld that information. He went into the fight. The PR around that was terrible. The PR around what's happening with Conor Benn is also terrible. So to let Dillian White go into this fight, again, potentially with a doping case hanging over him, which obviously a week out probably won't be resolved within that week, and they can tie it up with lawyers, can't they? So the fight will happen with him still not having cleared his name. I think it's the only thing that they could do, really. And I think White is obviously treading water here. But looking back on this statement, I think if you're looking at it through any kind of factual or legal standpoint, we'll say that it's in parts, in many parts embellished and in some factually incorrect.
Fair enough. Lots to digest there, and I think what's frustrating for a lot of people is that this is the third time a test has been failed for Dillian White, and I think maybe that's why some people are finding it quite hard to believe it. And it's a tricky one. It's not a tricky one, but we've had the Conor Benn situation as well, which has been going on for so long. And it's getting to the point now where when a fight gets announced, you kind of think, oh, is someone going to get an injury? They're going to get COVID. Is someone going to get, some sort of illness? And now I'm thinking, is someone going to fail a drugs test? Because a lot of us were very excited for Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn. I think it was 3 days before the drugs test story came out. 2 days before the fight, the fight was called off after so much hype and so much build up. This is happening. Was going to be probably going to be the biggest fight to happen in the UK this year, being called off 7 days beforehand. It looks like there's a chance Joshua's going to still fight on August the 12th, but it's unlikely to be as big a fight in regards to revenue generated and people watching the fight. Back to Dillian White. What do you think will happen now? In terms of kind of a ban that he could sort of face. I believe Dillian White, I think he's 35, maybe. He's not a great time of your career to face a drugs ban. What do you think happens next in the career of Dillian White?
In a weird way, I felt like this fight would actually be his last fight in some ways. I thought like it'd be a sort of cash out and we wouldn't necessarily see him again. Now I almost feel like, because his reputation within boxing and his legacy will be so tarnished, I almost feel like we'll see him trying to sort of claw back a bit of pride. So I think there will probably be a ban, or it's not an official ban. There'll be the Conor Benn period of inactivity, which can't be spoken about by anyone. So there'll be that. So he probably won't be fighting, obviously, in the foreseeable future. But I can almost see him I can still see him, like I say, trying to claw back something, just fighting kind of fringe guys. I don't think he won't fight someone, I don't think, like obviously like Usyk or which obviously fought Fury or Joshua again. But it'll be someone, I can see him kind of maybe having a sort of top 10 fights here and there. But I think, to be honest with you, the stage of his career is also in. Doesn't win those fights for me. So it's going to be to my mind, a couple of kind of sad fights at a level above where he currently is. And then maybe a retirement fight, and that'll be that, frankly. But I think the end of Dillian White's career will be a damp squib, unfortunately for him. I don't see any recovery, frankly. Like you say, age and 3 times, and also I think as a draw, I don't think he's necessarily the draw he also once was, when people were claiming that he was the body snatcher, which again was a kind of must be an ironic nickname, or when he was being avoided by by Deontay Wilder, because I don't think that was also laughable. So I don't see him also having that sort of commercial pull either.
Yeah.
And I think Matchroom will probably distance themselves from him as well, frankly, after this.
I think so. I think that was my final question, really. I think the part of his statement where he said, I've also just seen the fights being cancelled without having any chance to demonstrate my innocence. That just kind of, and Matchroom was still tweeting about this fight in the morning. So this seems to have happened quite quickly. But the fact this kind of hasn't really been kept under wraps, and Matchroom just gone ahead and kind of cancelled the fight without kind of having talks with Dillian White, says something. But I do have one more question for you, Elliot. Obviously, Dillian White is still saying that he's innocent. What's your reaction to him saying that he's innocent, in terms of, like, one of my thing that frustrates me about the Conor Benn situation is that I feel like we still haven't been told what's supposed to have happened here. Like performance enhancing drug hasn't magically made its way into someone's system. Whether someone's taken it on purpose or not is debatable. Whether someone's spiked someone's protein shake or whatever, but there needs to be some sort of story, and I don't feel like we have that with Conor Benn just yet. In terms of Dillian White, I know it's a tricky one. It's still very early days, but do you think there is going to be a story? Do you think he's just going to go down the route of, I'm innocent and I don't know how it got there? I know it's a tricky question, but just what's your kind of thoughts on him still saying that he's innocent?
I think, I think for one, it's obviously deluded, but I also think there's playbook for it. Obviously, we've seen Conor Benn persistently claiming that he's innocent despite having a substance inexplicably in his system. We've seen, what was it, the maternity pills, whatever the pills were for his wife, or whatever it was, or like that were used in certain things, or the egg excuse, whatever these different excuses were, the 270-page document, all these things that, essentially go, if you are innocent, it doesn't take this long to prove you're innocent, frankly. Like, it's not like some witch hunt, frankly. It's just people going, bullshit. I don't believe a word you're saying. In the mainstream media, thankfully, and also here. And I think with Matchroom, they've obviously, in some ways, I think have learned obviously from that experience. They've obviously tried to keep the Conor Benn one under wraps, tried to keep the Dillian White one under wraps, both of which came out. And I think it's one of those things where you just think, look, we can't afford the amount of heat we've taken for Conor Benn. We cannot afford to push this under wraps again. So we're going to have to just come out and deal with it quickly. I don't think Dillian White's innocent. I think, look, there's a difference between innocent and I suppose taking the substance. Like, if you're taking the substance, like you say, consciously or knowingly, or whether it's just in a protein shake or whatever it is. But to come out and sort of declare innocence when they've found something, like I said before, like based on science, a rigorous scientific process has found a certain chemical in your system, which we still don't know what that is. I don't know if you know what that is, but I haven't seen it actually named yet, so we don't know what that substance actually is yet. I think it's a very surprising early move to just declare innocence. But having said that, how often have we seen sports stars do that? In boxing and even outside of boxing, how many cyclists have we seen sit there with medals on them, and sit there go, yeah, I'm completely innocent, I don't know how this happened to me. It's just the playbook essentially seems to be elite sprinters, athletics, wherever it may be, rugby, wherever, all these sports that you sort of see that seem to have these kind of problems. Baseball, and it's in there, every single sports star when they first get caught just simply denies it, claims it's a witch hunt, some sort of conspiracy, some sort of contamination. So for me, it just follows the same lineage of that really. I don't believe him to be innocent, no. I frankly think people who do consider him to be innocent at this stage, third time, would probably have to would probably belong in boxing, frankly, if you're going to believe that sort of stuff. So yeah, I don't believe him to be innocent, no. But I think, like you said, it would be nice at least to get a kind of tie off. But the way that things have happened with Matchroom, I imagine it'll be a long period of like hiding behind sort of legal disclaimers and litigation, whatever, and following the process, etc., etc. And you'll never really get to the end of it, like with Conor Benn, who, for all we know, could have been serving a backdated ban during this whole time. We don't know any of this stuff, do we? So, and we probably won't. But the difference, I suppose, between Conor Benn and Dillian White in the situation is that Conor Benn's still got a lot of years of potential big money fights ahead of him, and Dillian White doesn't. So I think Matchroom in some ways would be like regretting this experience, but equally, I suppose to a certain degree, be quite happy that it pushes Dillian White to the front of that narrative over Conor Benn for this week at least.
Fantastic. Elliot Grigg, thank you very much for your time. We'll leave it there and we'll see what happens next for Dillian White. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thanks very much for having me.